Someone filmed it. A person standing outside Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, one of the most heavily fortified American military installations in the entire Middle East, pointed their camera at the sky and recorded what happened next. A missile hit, not near the base, not close to the perimeter, direct impact. And the footage is so catastrophic, so complete in its destruction, that when it started circulating online, millions of people assumed it was AI-generated, a simulation, a special effect. It's real. What you're looking at in that footage is the single most devastating strike on an American military installation since the Beirut barracks bombing in 1983. And the American defense system stationed at that exact base. Billions of dollars of the most advanced air defense technology the United States has ever deployed did not stop it, didn't slow it down, didn't deflect it, didn't detect it in time to do anything meaningful. It just hit. Now think about what's inside Prince Sultan Air Base. American soldiers, American aircraft, American command infrastructure, the physical human machinery of U.S. military power in the Gulf. And somewhere in the chain of events that followed that impact, in the gap between what Iran says happened and what America is willing to admit, is a number of American casualties that the Pentagon has not yet told the American public the truth about. Because here's what physics says about a direct missile strike on a military installation at full operational capacity. You cannot have that level of impact and walk away with single-digit casualties. You cannot. The footage makes that mathematically impossible. And yet the official numbers coming out of Washington are so low, they would only make sense if the base had been completely empty at the moment of impact. It wasn't empty. This is the video the Pentagon doesn't want you to slow down and analyze. This is the strike that former U.S. intelligence officer Scott Ritter warned about specifically, precisely by name, before this war started. He said, "Start a war with Iran, and every American base in the Gulf will be hit." He said Iranian missile accuracy will destroy installations before defenders can respond. He said the casualty numbers will be something America is not prepared for. The FBI raided his home. International media was pressured to stop platforming him. He was systematically excluded from every major outlet that shapes American public opinion. He was right about everything. And here's what makes this moment different from every previous escalation in this conflict. Different from the carrier group retreat. Different from the THAAD radar destruction. Different from the cluster missiles over Tel Aviv. Iran just announced that its old weapons are gone. The drones that cost $2,000. The older generation missiles that America's defense systems had learned to track and sometimes intercept. The low-tier munitions Iran has been firing for weeks deliberately, strategically, to drain American interceptor stockpiles and force defenders to burn through billion-dollar defense systems, stopping cheap hardware. That phase is over. Those weapons are exhausted. Not because Iran ran out of resources, because Iran finished the job they were designed to do. America's interceptors are depleted. America's early warning systems are 25 to 30% destroyed. America's defense crews are fatigued, tracking threats around the clock with degraded equipment and dwindling ammunition. And now Iran is moving to its next tier of weapons, the advanced missiles, the ones that weren't being saved as they were being protected, reserved specifically for the moment when American defenses would be weakest. That moment is now. The Prince Sultan strike wasn't the peak of this conflict. It was Iran changing gears. Oil hit $93 a barrel today, the highest price since 2023. And that number isn't the ceiling. It's a checkpoint on the way to something much higher. Because the math underneath that price isn't about market sentiment or speculative trading. It's about the physical reality that Gulf oil storage tanks are filling up. Shipping lanes are compromised and production cuts are coming whether anyone orders them or not. 2 weeks ago, we told you about the 14-day countdown to storage capacity. That clock is expiring. Scott Ritter warned them. Douglas McGregor warned them. The Joint Chiefs of Staff warned Trump in private briefings before the first strike was authorized. Start this war and you will not be able to control how it ends. Nobody listened. Now, Prince Sultan Air Base is on fire in footage the whole world has seen. And Iran just loaded the next magazine. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth said something before this war started that is worth reading back now, word for word, in the light of what's burning across the Gulf tonight. He said American forces would sail into Iranian range freely and comfortably. He said Iranians would look up at the sky and watch destruction rain down on them before they could react. He said it with the casual certainty of a man who had never actually studied what Iran built over the last 20 years, while America was busy in Iraq and Afghanistan. That arrogance has a price, and right now American soldiers in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia are paying it. Here's the strategic reality that nobody in Washington is explaining honestly to the American public. Iran's campaign has been running in deliberate phases. Phase 1. Use cheap weapons to drain expensive American defense systems. Flood the zone with low-cost drones and older missiles. Force America to spend millions, stopping thousands, and systematically exhaust the interceptor stockpiles that take years to replenish. That phase is complete. By Iran's own assessment, it worked exactly as planned. Phase 2. Move to advanced weapons against a degraded defense network. Hit the installations that matter, not symbolically but operationally. Prince Sultan, Kuwait, the command and coordination infrastructure that allows American forces to function as a coherent military machine rather than isolated garrisons. Make the bases untenable. Make the cost of staying higher than the cost of leaving. And Phase 3, which Iran has now explicitly telegraphed, is cyber attacks on American power infrastructure, water systems, and financial networks inside the continental United States itself. Not the Middle East, America. Think about what that means in practical terms. The Gulf conflict has so far been something most Americans experience through screens. Disturbing footage, rising gas prices, anxious news coverage. The human cost has fallen on soldiers, on Gulf workers, on civilians in Israel and Iran. Phase 3 changes that equation. Phase 3 brings the war to American soil in a form that every person with electricity, running water, or a bank account would feel immediately and personally. Iran doesn't need to sink a carrier to break American public support for this war. They need to turn the lights off in 3 American cities for 72 hours. Now let's talk about what's happening to the Gulf states, because the political transformation occurring there right now is more consequential than any individual military strike. Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain. Every single one of these countries has now been directly attacked. Every one of them has American military bases on their soil. Every one of them was told for decades that those bases were protection. What they are experiencing right now is the opposite of protection. The bases are targets. And because the bases are on their soil, their airports, their oil facilities, their civilian infrastructure, and their citizens are caught in the blast radius of a war they did not start, did not vote for, and cannot stop. The Gulf states cannot produce oil they have nowhere to ship. Storage is maxing out. Production cuts are coming. And when Gulf production cuts hit the global market simultaneously, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, all reducing output on the same timeline, the oil price doesn't climb gradually. It spikes fast, hard, in ways that ripple through the cost of every manufactured good, every food shipment, every heating bill, every airline ticket on Earth. $93 a barrel today. Analysts are now openly discussing $150 scenarios if production cuts materialize over the next 2 weeks. For context, the 1970s oil shock, which caused a decade of stagflation, destroyed political careers across the Western world, and permanently restructured the global energy market, peaked at roughly $50 in today's dollars. We're already past that, and the production cuts haven't happened yet. Meanwhile, America is pointing fingers at China and Russia for supplying Iran with weapons and intelligence. This is the same America that has supplied Israel with thousands of bombs, billions in military aid, and diplomatic cover for actions that have killed tens of thousands of civilians. The moral accounting here is not complicated. And the rest of the world, the global south, the countries that buy Gulf oil, the nations that have watched this unfold, is making its own calculation about which side of this conflict represents a rules-based international order worth defending. The answer they're arriving at is not what Washington expects. China is not panicking. Russia is not worried. They are watching America burn through resources, burn through alliances, burn through credibility, and they are waiting for the position to mature. Patience is a strategy, and right now Iran, China, and Russia are all playing a longer game than America is capable of sustaining. Before this war started, 93% of the American public supported the Afghanistan invasion. Today, 90% of the American public opposes this war. Read that contrast carefully because it tells you something important about where this ends. Not about whether Trump will change course. He won't. Not about whether the military will find a winning strategy. There isn't one available at this stage. But about the domestic political clock that's running underneath everything else. The timer that every American war eventually hits, regardless of what's happening on the battlefield. Afghanistan took 20 years to exhaust American political will. Vietnam took a decade. This conflict is burning through public support in weeks, and the reason is simple. This war is already more economically visible to ordinary Americans than either of those conflicts ever were. Vietnam didn't spike their gas prices. Afghanistan didn't threaten to take their grocery costs into crisis territory. This war, through oil prices, through market volatility, through the threat to the financial systems built on Gulf investment, is something Americans feel in their wallets right now, today before the really serious economic damage has even arrived. 90% opposition after a few weeks. What does that number look like after 2 months of $120 oil? Now let's step back and look at the full picture of what Iran has actually achieved. Because buried under the day-to-day coverage of strikes and casualties and diplomatic statements is something historically significant. Iran entered this conflict as a sanctioned, isolated nation that the Western financial system had spent 40 years trying to strangle. A country whose currency had been devalued, whose population had suffered under economic warfare, whose leadership had been targeted for assassination, whose scientists had been killed. What Iran has now demonstrated to every country on Earth that's been watching. American missile defense systems can be systematically drained and defeated. It takes patience and a deliberate attrition strategy, but it's achievable. This changes the military calculus for every country that has been deterred from challenging American power by the assumption that U.S. defense systems were impenetrable. American economic dominance can be attacked through its energy foundations, threaten the oil, compromise the petrodollar recycling system, push Gulf states toward alternative financial arrangements, and the invisible engine of American economic power starts to stall. This is a strategy guide that every American rival has just watched work in real time. American alliances are conditional and fragile. The Gulf states, who were supposed to be America's bedrock regional partners, are withdrawing investment commitments, writing furious letters to the American president, and having quiet conversations about post-American security arrangements. 40 years of alliance building is fracturing in days. And American credibility, the soft power that kept countries in line even when hard power wasn't deployed, has taken damage that cannot be repaired by a press conference or a peace deal. The world watched a U.S. carrier retreat. The world watched Prince Sultan burn. The world watched a $1 billion radar system get destroyed in Jordan. The world is watching. Here's what comes after, and this matters for every person watching this, regardless of where you live. The Middle East that emerges from this conflict will be organized around different power centers. China will be the primary economic partner for Gulf states that have decided American protection is more dangerous than American absence. Russia will be the energy negotiating partner for a Europe that has learned again the cost of energy dependency. Iran, regardless of how this conflict formally ends, will have established itself as a regional power that cannot be bombed into submission or sanctioned into collapse. The petrodollar system will be weakened. How much depends on decisions made in the next few months, but the trajectory is set. Gulf states have seen what dollar-denominated oil trade looks like when America turns their region into a battlefield. They will diversify slowly, carefully, irreversibly. And the ordinary people, the workers, the families, the small business owners across South Asia and Southeast Asia and Africa, who built their lives around Gulf stability, will rebuild as they always have, because ordinary people are more resilient than the systems that fail them. But the leaders who made these decisions, who chose 7 months of war over an available peace, who chose political pride over human cost, who chose to dismiss every warning from every honest voice telling them what was coming, those leaders will be remembered the way history remembers all the leaders who spent other people's lives on wars they couldn't win and wouldn't stop. Scott Ritter warned them. The Joint Chiefs warned them. The Gulf billionaires wrote letters. The American public registered 90% opposition. Prince Sultan burned anyway. The missiles are getting more advanced, the defenses are getting weaker, the oil is getting more expensive, the alliances are fracturing, the investment is moving. And somewhere in Tehran tonight, the next phase is being finalized. History doesn't wait for the people in charge to get ready. I'm Marcus. If this analysis gave you something the mainstream media didn't, share this video right now, subscribe for daily updates on how this conflict develops, and drop a comment below telling us what you think happens next. The next 40 days will define the next 40 years.